You've got to prioritize your time. You've got to prioritize your energy. You have to prioritize what you're investing in, because this is the utmost thing that will change everything. And this is what I've found is when women can learn how to be selfish in this way, you become so full of connection to self that everything starts to shift in your life, and you become an incredible giver because you're giving from overflow. Now you're giving from joy. You're giving because it works for you, as opposed to, the people pleaser, good girl, self-abandoner who gives from resentment and obligation and exhaustion and burnout. And that doesn't feel good to give or receive when we're doing it that way. So it also translates us into the most generous, compassionate version of ourselves, because we actually have an abundance of connection inside.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. Today I have on the show Valerie Jones, and she is the author of The Selfish Year, host of the Selfish Woman podcast, and founder of the Selfish Woman Movement, a global sisterhood redefining what it means to put yourself first. For more than a decade, Valerie has been a voice in the dark for women navigating transition, healing, rebuilding, and reclaiming their lives. And today, she leads women far beyond survival into bold reinvention, magnetic self-worth, and the freedom to build lives that feel as good as they look. And we are talking today all about becoming selfish. And it may be what you think, but it may not be what you think. And I love Valerie's take on this because she has such a powerful journey of divorce and rebirth and hitting rock bottom and all these things that really led her to, lead this movement that she's leading of the selfish woman, and this book that she has about the selfish year and what that means about not only about putting yourself first, but how it helps you lead others and give to others, and how it affects your ability to give and receive. I love this conversation so much. So let's jump in.
Valerie, I love these conversations with someone who I've already done a pod swap with, because I feel like we already have a foundation. So I love that we get to hang out again. Valerie, thanks for joining us.
I know. Thanks for having me, Hope. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And I love, if you're watching this, you'll see in the background, I mentioned this in the intro, she has her book in the background. And I actually wanted to start there. Yes. Oh, there it is. I actually wanted to start there because I love the title of the book. And I want you to give us an idea. The book is called The Selfish Year. And I want to get an idea of what the selfish year was for you. Like, why did you embark on the journey of the selfish year? What was it for? What was it about? Tell us all the things.
Yeah. So the word selfish is confronting, right? Most women will be like, oh, what's this about? I don't like this word. And I didn't either. I was a people pleaser most of my life. Very much raised to be the good girl, the nice one, make everybody else happy. And that translated into my adult life. I was married for 24 years, had 3 kids, but really abandoned myself inside of that marriage. I was married to a narcissist, bipolar, alcoholic. So it was a lot of toxic stuff, but I didn't at the time really understand my part to play in that. And then we got divorced, and then I became a coach, and I got into therapy, and I started working on a lot of my issues, and thinking that, hey, I'm good to go now, and got married again. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this again. I found the right one. And we moved to Spain, and we had this beautiful life on the outside. Like, on paper, everything looked great, but inside I was miserable, and I didn't know why. And at the time, I didn't realize I was now in an emotionally abusive relationship. But what I did know is that I was unhappy, and I'd come to the end of being selfless. I just felt as though like I'd tried to do life right. Like, a noble woman is selfless and, put everybody else first, and you're doing life right. But it didn't work for me. And I found that I was just really unhappy. I was confused. I was scared because I didn't really understand, like, how can I be this deeply unhappy? What is going on? And so it led me to January of 2020, where I have a group of friends, and every year we meet on Zoom and we share our word for the year. And then we, talk about what we manifested the year before. And I'm like, I don't know what my word is for 2020. I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. And I was just in such a bad place. But the word selfish started coming up. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't be selfish. That's what I've been taught not to be. I was very uncomfortable with this word, but it wouldn't leave me alone. And so I got on the call and I just said, you know what? Selfish is going to be my word. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to go for it. And they were like, cool. Can't wait to find out what happens. And after I got off the call, I really started to think about it. And I was like, okay, well, I have to do something radical. I need to do something different. This is not working. My life isn't working. So what if I decided as an experiment to be selfish for an entire year? I wonder what might happen. And so I kind of just decided that I was going to do this experiment as a way to challenge myself, really. That's how it started.
I love that. And what was your vision for that? Like, what did you expect to see on the other side? And then what did you actually find on the other side?
I had no idea what to expect. I was terrified. I was just like, what does this mean? Because I quickly realized that if I was going to be selfish, which I am redefining this word for women, right? So for myself, I started redefining it as being full of connection to myself. What if everything I did for a year was because I knew it was right for me? And I didn't know what that was going to look like. However, I felt intuitively that that's what I needed to do because I'd never really done that before. And so I sort of took that as my compass. It's like, what's right for me? But I quickly realized I didn't know myself. And so how do you know what's right for you if you don't even know who you are? And it sent me on this journey of self-discovery and deep healing around the identities that I'd been performing in my life that had kept me safe up until that point, really had just broken down and life wasn't working and I didn't know who I was if I wasn't performing the good wife or the good mom or the perfectionist or the pleaser. I didn't know who I was under that. So it sent me on a journey of really understanding, like, who am I? And I think that a lot of women get to a point in life where they realize, like, wait, do I even know who I am? Because I've been performing based on what I've been taught to do or how I've been conditioned to show up as in my life. And do I even know who I am underneath all of that? And so that's really how I kicked it off.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And I think that's a huge thing that a lot of women face. Like, that's very, like you said at the beginning, it's very confronting. But I'm curious because, like you mentioned, that word selfish can be like, that is a confronting word. It can be perhaps a triggering word for people, like calling yourself that, but like meaning it in a good way and not a bad way. So for you, like going into this and you were mentioning, I had these kind of people pleasing tendencies and that kind of thing. How was it like that word came to you, which I'm sure was probably also confusing to you? Like, why is this word coming up when that's like the last thing I want to be is selfish? So when you're going on this journey, was it like this journey was like, oh yes, I'm going to embrace this whole like selfish thing? Or did it feel edgy and did it feel confusing? And did you have moments where you're like, I can't be selfish? Like how was that like really going headfirst into that?
Yeah, it was highly uncomfortable. And I was like, what are people going to think? I don't want anyone to know what I'm doing. And yet I was like, I need to do this. And so choosing myself meant, like, what does this actually look like? And so it started with just buying a one-way ticket out of Spain. And I was like, this is my first selfish choice. I need space. I need time. I need to be with myself for a second. And I got on a plane and I came back to Canada. And from there, I was like, okay, now what? I didn't have anywhere to go or be. And I started just allowing myself to learn how to make a decision on my own. I'd realized I'd been abdicating my decisions to everybody else and calling myself easygoing. But really what I was doing was abandoning myself. And so I had to stop abandoning myself and learn how to make decisions. And it was terrifying, but it was also exciting. So I invented a word called terror-excited because I think this is the sweet spot of life, right? Like if you feel terrified, but also there's this like excitement of like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen? I feel like I'm on the verge of something amazing, but it's also like scaring the crap out of me. Then, it's terror-excited. And that's really how I felt most of that year.
Yeah, no, I believe it. I love that word. Actually, we should add that to the dictionary. I think that's perfect. And I think a lot of women can really relate to that. For the part that you mentioned before about like the getting, like I didn't even really know myself, like the getting to know yourself part. I feel like this can be a really tricky place for women to be in. I mean, I think like realizing it is one thing. And I think the realization is always powerful because there's like the awareness is there. And I think so many women get tripped up because they're like, okay, well, let me go on this journey to like, discover myself. And then those old patterns, like those patterns are sticky, like the patterns that the conditioning and all that, like those are super sticky. And I find so often that women start to bump up against those and either like they just kind of fall back into old patterns or like they take those patterns with them, but kind of masked as something new. So I was curious about how that was for you, that getting to know you, like what kind of things were you doing and telling yourself and what were you doing to really help yourself, like get to know yourself?
Yeah, it's such a good point because look, I took a whole year and it turned out to be the pandemic year. So I ended up living alone for that whole year in isolation. Wow. And that was, the opportunity that I had to be able to do this deep work. And out of that, yes, I wrote my book, but I really also created an entire methodology around this for women through my own experiment. And in the book, I give you selfish strategies that are small daily steps and actions because it does take time. If you think about it, we've been thinking, feeling, acting one way most of our life. And so it takes time to rewire our brain. It takes time to allow our nervous system to feel regulated when we're being bigger in our life or choosing ourselves, being selfish. And it takes time to change those actions. And so how do we do that, right? And so for me during that year, even though I didn't know that's what I was doing, that's what I was doing. And, I started to discover ways that worked for me to connect to myself. And I call it my inner being, right? Your soul, your connection to the universe, however you define it. My inner being was my true self. And I went on what I call Operation Tune In, which was really just my way of going, okay, like how do I get to know my inner being and allow myself to be guided from my connection to her instead of the masks we wear. And I call them masks because I do think we wear these masks of different identities, like you said, right? That feel very familiar. And so you have to have somewhere else to go. And so for me, that was nature, like being out in nature every day for a year where I was purposefully doing it in order to connect with my inner being started to become such a touchstone for me. I would go and sit at the beach and just like breathe with the waves. So, the wave would come in, I'd breathe in, the wave would go out, I'd go out. And literally that would help me to start to connect to like, okay, I think I'm feeling this, or I think I need to do this next, or I'm feeling guided, in this way. Music, like listening to music that helped me to remember who I really am. And of course, the practices of mindfulness, journaling, meditation, so many things like that helped as well. But I do think that it comes down to micro steps every day of like choosing yourself. And when we're so conditioned to put everybody else first, for example, and to abandon myself for everybody else, not setting boundaries, not speaking up, not making decisions for myself so I don't rock the boat, I have to be able to get still and get quiet and learn how to tune in. And that's a skill that we can build, but we have to be very intentional about that. And just like anything else, prioritize that, which means you've got to be selfish about it. You've got to prioritize your time. You've got to prioritize your energy. You have to prioritize what you're investing in, because this is the utmost thing that will change everything. And this is what I've found is when women can learn how to be selfish in this way, you become so full of connection to self that everything starts to shift in your life and you become an incredible giver because you're giving from overflow. Now you're giving from joy. You're giving because it works for you, as opposed to, the people pleaser, good girl, self-abandoner who gives from resentment and obligation and exhaustion and burnout. And that doesn't feel good to give or receive when we're doing it that way. So it also translates us into the most generous, compassionate version of ourselves because we actually have an abundance of connection inside.
Yeah, that's such a good explanation. I think most women, I think we've brought up, I think there's a lot of conditioning around this. We've been brought up to see selflessness as like this badge of honor. And as a woman, we're supposed to be selfless, and we're the nurturers and the caretakers and the, all these roles that have been placed on us by whatever. And I think that is it also that's a tough one to break. So for the woman listening who prides themselves on being the selfless one, or feels like as a woman, I'm supposed to be selfless. Like that's who I'm called to be. Like I'm here, especially those who might have kids or families. Like it's like you just kind of fall into that. Like I'm the one who sacrifices for. So for that woman who is kind of like really attached themselves to that identity, how do we kind of break out of that?
First, you have to see it for what it is, right? Because you're right. We've been conditioned that selfless women are the best kind of woman, and we can be proud of that. And it's like, okay, but is that true? Let's examine that with curiosity, not judgment. But yeah, we are living inside of a patriarchal system. So the system was not designed for women to be in positions of power, success, influence, and impact. And so the selfless conditioning of the culture has been designed for centuries to keep women in the house and not making their own money and not having power. So on the one hand, we can see how that identity has been working against us. But on the other hand, as you said, we also are natural nurturers, caretakers. I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years and I loved it. I loved being able to be home for my kids in that way. But at the same time, I abandoned my financial power to a husband who wasn't trustworthy and wasn't, showing up in a way that protected me, because that is a very vulnerable place for a woman to be. And so we have to first get curious about how is this working and how is it not? Is that selfless woman running my life? Is she in the, CEO office of my life, making all my decisions? And is that working? Where is it working? Where is it not? And what if I instead gave her a corner office where she becomes my advisor, but she's not calling the shots? And I always say, selfish is the key to success, because we're not making these parts bad or wrong. We're simply allocating a different role to that part and going, okay, so the good girl can show up when, I want to bring empathy and I want to be caring. Like when I call my kids and, I love going to visit my kids and cooking for them, because it's just like, I miss that part, right? So it's like, I love showing up as that version of myself. Is like, let me cook for you, let me clean your house, let me take care of you. And so it's like, yeah, she gets to come in, but she's not the one in charge of my life. My inner being is in charge of my life, and my inner being is in that CEO office going, okay, so we're hearing from all these different parts that, have a voice, have an opinion, but ultimately I'm making the decision. And that's really being selfish, is like, okay, I am connected to myself, my true self. I know what's right for me. I can take all of this advice from the peanut gallery in my brain. But yeah, if we let them run our life, it's chaos, and it's not our highest calling, because we're being kept in an oppressive system, and we're playing along. So we've got to stop participating in that system and find the way out of it, while still maintaining our integrity, our values, and knowing how we want to show up for ourselves first, and then for our people. And really then, what's the impact you want to have on the world? Because that's what comes next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think that's a really good perspective to take when we're kind of letting go of that selflessness and stepping into this self. I love that metaphor, that imagery you have of the CEO in the corner office. I think that's such a good way to look at it. But seeing it as, like you said, this is bigger than you, this transforming into letting go of the selflessness into this, it's such a much bigger shift than just a personal shift, because I talk about this on the show a lot.
Hey, y'all, we'll get right back to the episode. But first, let me ask you this. You've built a vision that others admire, and you've built something that you're really proud of. But behind the scenes, your body feels like it's lagging behind. It just can't quite catch up to your brilliance and your mission that you have. That late night second wind, the foggy mornings, the hormone shifts, the endless push and forcing. You can't strategize your way out of that. And you already know you don't need more supplements. You don't need another supplement stack. You also don't need another side hustle disguised as self-care, because nobody wants to have their health as a side hustle. This is about recalibrating celebrating your entire ecosystem. And that's why I created the Quantum Reset, a premium 3-month high-touch healing experience for visionary women who are ready to feel as powerful in their bodies as they do in their business. Inside, we decode your nervous system, your minerals, your hormones. We read your labs like the sacred text that it is, so we have actual answers. And then we pair that with deep energetic recalibration, subconscious release. We use gene keys, we use human design, and true embodied healing. This isn't about fixing burnout, because that's not what we're doing here. This is about becoming the woman whose body is powerful, whose body is completely electric, whose energy, clarity, radiance finally matches the size of her mission. If you know your success isn't meant to cost you your vitality, and you're ready for a science-backed, spirit-led reset, then the Quantum Reset is your invitation. So check the link in the show notes or send me a message on Instagram, and let's bring your body back online with your brilliance. Now, let's get back to the show.
There's this ripple effect, right? And how you be and how you live, like there's a ripple effect. And so I think what you're talking about is the same thing. It's, that old adage of not giving from an empty cup thing. I know that gets old, but it's true. And you mentioned that earlier, like it's benefiting everyone around you because you're not giving from an empty cup. What do you find when you were on your journey were some of the stickiest patterns or identities to let go of for you?
One for sure is guilt. I think that women have a super highway of guilt in our brains, and it's so easy to go to guilt. And, the women I work with, and myself included, all have this super highway of guilt. And so we've got to look at that, because guilt will keep women abandoning themselves. And it becomes almost a lazy way of thinking, because we just say, well, I feel guilty. So it becomes the reason for not setting a boundary, not disappointing somebody, not making someone uncomfortable, not choosing yourself when it's perhaps not what other people want. I mean, like I said, I've been divorced twice, and I initiated both of those divorces. So divorce guilt is real, mom guilt is real, but we have to challenge that. And so one of the things that I learned and now teach is how to challenge the guilt highway in our brain and not just indulge it, not just let it be this runaway freight train of like, oh, well, I feel guilty, so I'm not going to do that. It's like, no. So, that's one that I definitely do a lot of work with women around, is learning how to get out of the guilt trap so that you don't use that subconsciously as an excuse to play it small in life.
That's so good. I totally resonate with that. And it's funny, I can't remember the guy's name. He's an author, but I saw him. It's a clip of a podcast he was on, and he was talking about disappointing people and how you have to get comfortable disappointing people, and was talking about this and kind of relating it back to guilt. And that what you said resonates so much. And I agree. I think women, this is like in our DNA when we're born, like the guilt and the shame thing, like we're born with it. And this is generations of patriarchy and all the other things. We could go down all the rabbit holes, but we are. And I think it's like our default setting is to like feel guilty about everything. And then we feel shame. Like it's just like guilt and shame just covers over everything. And I know for me, that's been a pattern that have worked on too. And it is, for me, it is like the whole disappointing people. It's disappointment. It's disappointing myself or disappointing other people. And then there's like guilt around that, right? Feeling bad. And I love that you said, because I had never thought of it that way. Like it's a lazy way of thinking, because it is. It's like, and that's what the guy in this video is basically saying, like, rather than facing and owning like your boundary or your stance on something, it's easier to not feel that discomfort, right? And not to feel like you're disappointing someone.
Right. And that's the selfless trap, is instead of feeling guilty, I will give up what I want. I will abandon myself so I don't have to be in that discomfort. And I'll give you one super easy way for those women listening. I'll give you a super simple, easy way to start to do this work. So number one, we know healthy guilt means I've done something wrong. And that healthy guilt is a signal that I need to make it right. Okay, that's maybe 1% of what we attribute as guilt. Okay, 1%. So the first question we're going to ask is, am I actually doing something wrong? So for example, asking for a divorce. Am I actually doing something wrong by asking for a divorce? No, I'm doing what I know in my gut is the right thing to do. Okay, well then what I'm feeling isn't guilt. What I'm feeling is the discomfort of choosing myself.
Mm.
And that discomfort I can deal with way better than guilt, because discomfort signals to my brain, okay, I'm uncomfortable, but it's not life-threatening, and I'm not a bad person, and I'm not doing anything wrong. So I can get behind this decision wholeheartedly and be in the discomfort because I know it's going to help me grow. And all of a sudden, you have shifted out of guilt, and you're in a much better place where we can access growth instead of stagnancy.
That's good. That's so good. And you're right. I think that that's such a good reframe. And I think, man, I think that one gets women stuck so much, the guilt thing. Do you have any other ones that you see maybe in other people you've worked with or yourself, another super sticky one that was a tough one for you to get rid of? Or to shift?
I mean, the fear of the unknown is huge. We all fear that. And also control comes in there, right? So control, I mean, how many women say, I'm a control freak, in a funny way, but really control is our way of trying to make ourselves safe when the future is either out of our control or it's unknown. Well, the future is unknown to all of us. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes, right? So when I embarked on my selfish year, I didn't know when I got on that plane from Spain to Vancouver, I had no idea what was going to happen. And that was terrifying because we have this illusion of control in our lives. If I know what I'm going to eat for breakfast and I know what I do for work and I know, how I show up every day, it feels like we're in control. But really, what can we control? Our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. And that's about it. Everything else is a crapshoot. So when we realize that and we're faced with that by doing something that's out of our comfort zone, that reality that we're not in control and the future is unknown starts to get very amplified. So when women say, I want to start a business, or I want to, get a divorce, or I want to lose weight, or I want to make more money this year, or I want to become a speaker, or whatever it is you want, you are launching into an unknown experience. You've never done this before, but there's something in you that's saying, yeah, like this is it, go for it. And then that control starts to come in and go, wait a second. Let's have a 10-step plan before we do anything. Let's make sure A to Z, we know exactly how this is going to work. And then I'll take some action. And then you're waiting your whole life because that's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. So that's a really sticky one too.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. That fear of the unknown is huge for a lot of people. What would you say would be maybe a couple of the biggest learnings that you had at the end of your selfish year after really diving into this? Because I mean, I that's so funny that the year that this happened was the shutdown year, where it's you were literally thrown and the universe is okay, this is it. You're by yourself now, literally all alone. You're in quarantine. So that's so funny that it worked out that way. But what would you say or would be a couple of the biggest lessons that you got at the end of that year?
Yeah, it's so true. The universe had me right where she wanted me. It's okay, this is cute. Well, you're going to spend a whole year alone.
That's right.
And I talk in the book about a quote from Blaise Pascal. He says, all of humanity's problems stem from humans' inability or unwillingness to sit in a room by themselves. And so that's what I did for a year. And so, right, I was given this incredible opportunity, which was very, very difficult. But it was just oh my gosh, I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about how women need to show up in their lives and how we heal ourselves and how we actually get what we want. I would say one of the big ones I learned was no risk, no magic. It's simple, right? But do you want a magical life? And what does that mean to you? Okay, well, if you want magic in your life, if you want to wake up and feel excited about your day, if you want to feel like you're living a life that feels juicy and alive and adventurous or free or calm, relaxed, whatever that is, you've got to take some risks. That's not going to just drop in your lap. Fulfillment is a radical act. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people are fulfilled these days. And so if you want to feel fulfilled and if you want to feel lit up in your life, you're going to have to take some risks. And as soon as you decide you want it, the risks will reveal themselves to you. I mean, not everyone has to go on a one-way trip. Not everyone has to blow up their life. Not everyone has to do anything radical in the sense of that external action. But what's radical is to say, I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to look for opportunities to be selfish. And then I'm going to do it. And I'm going to be in that discomfort and that excited feeling. And I'm going to find out what happens. I think that's radical. And I think that the more that women choose that, the more we just get into our power. And as you said, that ripple effect, we're not only healing and transforming ourselves, but that also goes backwards and forwards, doesn't it? It's like we heal our past versions of ourselves, and we also offer that to the future generations. And I think that at this time in history, women are being called to step up and to do this work and take ourselves seriously and raise our standards of what we expect for ourselves. And build that self-trust. And I think you mentioned that before. Self-trust is one of the biggest lessons I learned. Is like when you trust yourself, that means your words and your actions line up with yourself. And you follow through on your commitments to yourself. And I had to learn that. I realized I didn't trust myself. I didn't know how to listen to my intuition and then trust that. It's very scary. We're so taught to trust everything outside of us. What's the economy doing? What does my mother say? What does the news tell me? And it's like, no, like trust yourself and your path will unfold and reveal itself to you. And one of the things I say in the book is like, you are the path. We're looking for the path. Okay, show me the way. Like I said, give me the A to Z path and I'll maybe take that path. No, you are the path. And as you show up and you commit to yourself, that path will reveal itself as you are taking it the next step and the next step and the next step. And that's really how my whole year unfolded. And how I live my life now is trusting that as I get into action in my life in this way, the path is revealed. And it's led me into incredible experiences and results. Like it's changed every area of my life.
Yeah, that just following the breadcrumbs. What is your human design type?
I don't know. It's funny. I was talking to somebody yesterday and she said she was a 3-5 and I was like, oh, that sounds like me, but I can't remember. I took it like years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just wondering because you are really good at responding. So I'm like, I feel like you have to be a generator type. Yeah.
I should take that again.
You should. Yeah, you should. No, but it's true. I think that's, it's a lesson for all of us, generator type or not, like following the breadcrumbs. And I talked about this in an episode not too long ago. We get so caught up in like the end result that we look too far ahead to like step 28 where it's like, well, no, like you got to take one step at a time to get there. And it's just following those little breadcrumbs. And that's how you build the self-trust along the way, is taking those little steps and then trusting that this is the right step. And then this is the right step. And this is the right step. So I think that's such valuable advice and insight. And I think self-trust is, that's what gets us through anything and everything, is just having that deep self-trust within ourselves. What do you think would be for women who, like you were essentially redefining, in my opinion, like redefining what selfish means. So how do you want women to define that for themselves? Like selfish, like how do you want them to see that for themselves?
Well, let me just grab my book because I've got it. And when you buy my book, which you need to, because I walk you through all of this, I tell you my story, and then I give you, like I said, strategies so you can do it no matter where you are at in life, like whether you're a stay-at-home mom or you're a busy entrepreneur or whatever's going on. I'm giving you ways to do this in very small, manageable steps. But on the first page of my book, I have my dictionary definition. So why don't I just read it to you?
Please do.
All right. So selfish. Number 1, the radical act of honoring your truth, needs, and desires without guilt or apology. Number 2, choosing self-trust over people-pleasing, even when it's uncomfortable. Number 3, a sacred rebellion against martyrdom, self-abandonment, and invisibility. And number 4, the foundation for generous, joyful, sustainable giving born from overflow, not obligation.
Oh, that's so good. It's so multi-layered. I love it. That was perfect. That's so good. That's so good. My gosh. Yeah. I think we can all work to embody all of that. I love every piece of that. This is so good. I have one more question I would like to ask you that I like to ask everybody at the end, but I feel like that's the perfect place to like tie this up with a bow, is that definition, because I think that's so powerful and empowering for women. So good. So for those of Those listening, where can they find you? Obviously the book, which I'll have a link to that in the show notes, where they find out more about you and all the things you're doing, working with you and all that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you can get the Selfish Year anywhere you buy books. And I also have the Selfish Women podcast. We're going into our 5th season, which is really exciting. And you can listen to the very first episode, which is Selfish is Not a Dirty Word. I kind of get deep into that. And then my website, valeriejones.ca, has everything else. And I've got a free quiz you can take, which is called Reveal Your Mask. And it's really about everything we've been talking about. What are the masks that you wear that you might not be aware of? It's going to show you the number one mask you tend to wear that sabotages you. And then I show you what to do about that to reveal your true self, your inner being, and step into your power. So that's available as well. And I'll give you the link for that too.
Perfect. How fun. Yes. All of that will be in the show notes. It's a perfect place to get started, and definitely go check out Valerie's book for just to dive deeper into all of this. I think we could all use a little more selfish in our lives. So I love that.
That's right.
Yes. The last question I'm going to ask you that I like to ask everybody. What do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
I love that question. I mean, living with purpose to me means that every day I'm clear on what I feel like my soul is meant to do on this planet. That I have a sense of that bigger calling on my life that's calling me into not only like my own growth, but also what I'm meant to do to offer to the world, to have an impact. And so for me, I'll tell you what I do, which came out of the Selfish Year, which I still do now every day, is when I wake up, how am I going to feel? Like, how am I going to start my day? My Operation Tune In has to start. So before I go on my phone, before I go on and, consume any content, I meditate and I do like 10-minute breath work practice. Sometimes I just still lay in bed and I do it before I even get out of bed, but that sets my nervous system. It aligns me in my energy. And then I'll light a candle and I just kind of like move around, move my body, because the universe responds to our energy. It doesn't respond to what we say we want. It responds to how we feel, right? And so I move my body, I align my energy. And then the last thing, which is hilarious because I just started doing it last year, and I've had women say like, I have this written on my wall. Like, I need to remember this. I just like put my arms out. I look out my window at the sky and I speak to the universe and I say, I am open to receiving more support than ever before. Thank you. Thank you, universe. And honestly, it's so simple, but my day just unfolds so different when I do this. Yeah. And I feel on purpose. I feel connected. I feel happy. And it's really been a game changer. And I think if you want to make more money, for example, do something like this for yourself. Align yourself with the energy of abundance and wealth, like whatever you want. Start with that, and living on purpose will unfold because you'll get inspiration, you'll get creativity, you'll get opportunities. I mean, the opportunities I've had in the last 2 years have been more than I could ever dream up or imagine. But it's because of being selfish and then like you said, right? Living on purpose.
Yeah. No, I love that. That intentional. And it's that intentional declaration. Like, you're being intentional with your day. Like, I'm open to receive and I'm being intentional about being open to receive. Like, I think that's such a beautiful way to start the day. And that is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. It's a conversation that all of us women listening should be having more of. So thank you. Thanks, Valerie.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Hope. It's been so fun.